Our next guests are the filmmakers and conservationists behind the new National Geographic film, Wildlife, a sweeping portrait of Kris and her late husband, Doug Tompkins, and their fight to preserve one of the last truly wild places on Earth by creating a series of national parks throughout Chile and Argentina. With more than 14 million acres and counting, it is the largest land donation in the history of mankind. Round of applause. Please welcome Kris Tompkins, Rick Ridgeway, and one of the film's subjects, and Oscar-winning filmmakers Jimmy Chin and Chai Vasarhelyi. To the South by Southwest studio, daylight savings be damned. We don't need sleep. We are here. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. Thank you all for this amazing gift, this work that you're doing. We have to start off with love. I love a good love story. Kris, how did you fall in love with your late husband, Doug?
Well, I knew him early on, but we met down in a small southern Argentine town and ran into each other again. And that was it.
You knew it?
That was it.
Wow.
I know.
That's
doesn't happen very often.
Doesn't happen often. Happened with me and my wife, happened with you and Doug. But you also came together and you fell in love with the land and people of Chile. Mm-hmm. How did that happen?
Doug and Yvonne Chenard, his best friend, who started the Patagonia company, did a trip, sort of an emblematic climbing trip down in Patagonia in the 1960s, late 60s. And they never forgot it. It became sort of an emblematic place that helped define how they felt about their lives, actually. And so many, many years later, Yvonne named the clothing company after Patagonia, and Doug started down there and thought, well, there are a few places I really love, and he was out of his business life and said, what about this? Let's work in Chile and Argentina and see if we can
save the world. See if we can save the world.
Protect the jewels of the country.
And Rick, you, first of all, Rick, props. One of the first Americans to climb K2. You are here with us. Thank you, sir. But Doug was a mentor to you and a friend, right? And you've seen this journey, and now you're in this movie, which we're going to talk about. Doug's legacy on you for conservation, the impact he's had. Talk to us about that.
It was Doug and Yvonne both. They were each about 7 and 10 years older than me, and they had a profound impact on bringing me to an awareness at a very early age about what was going on with the plight and health of our planet. And around the campfire, in the wilds around the world, the two of them, guided me into this increasing awareness to where finally, like them, I followed their footsteps and made that commitment to do what I could to try and solve these crises that we're all facing, the twin crises of climate and extinction. So indeed, yeah, they were my mentors and guiding lights.
And we're storytelling animals, human beings. It's not enough just to say preserve land. We need to live. Everything has to be told through a story, and you need gifted storytellers to bring this to life. And here we have the superstar documentary filmmakers, the team. Question for Jimmy and Chai. What made you tackle this particular subject? Free solo, or I'm going to follow the rescuers of the Thai kids. I want to put my camera on this story. What convinced you to jump in? I'll go with you first, Jim. All right, no, she deferred there. No.
I can take it.
You got the nod.
I got the nod. Okay. I mean, I think after Free Solo, we were obviously looking for what our next film was going to be, but I knew of this story of Kris and Doug and Rick and Yvonne because they're really inspirations to me and mentors to me. And I felt like it was one of the greatest stories that had never really been told.
That's right. Not enough people know about this.
Yeah, and I think also because I think they are of a generation that does the walk and less of the talk, because they act and
the climb
and they're private.
Yeah.
And I felt like we had a level of trust and access with them that we might be able to try and do justice to the story.
Well, about the privacy, Kris, it's known that you're like, I don't want the camera on me. Who am I? And this team comes and says, we're going to put the camera on you and your story and your late husband and unearth it. And so, Chai, how are you able to convince a camera-shy Kris to really open up for this story?
It's a good question. I don't know if we ever fully convinced Kris.
Is she even convinced now, sitting right here?
I mean, I think at the kind of vibrant heart of wildlife is this kind of commitment to sharing a story about conservation and love that
I think love, it's key.
can transcend kind of its subject matter. So that I think we all made a commitment to trying to get the story out to inspire others. And I think, being a participant in any documentary is tough. I don't know if I could do it. But Kris really committed to sharing, because it's an important story about our most pressing issue of our times.
And now we're going to flip it, and you're going to get compliments, because Kris has now said that when it comes to telling the story, she could not think of any other filmmakers other than Jimmy and Chai. So what was it about them that said, you know what? If the camera's going to be on me, I'm going to make sure the two Helmers are this duo.
No, I wouldn't do it with anybody else.
High praise.
No, it's a fact. My responsibility to myself, to our families, to our work and so on, to turn that over it was kind of freeing, actually. Instead of hoarding things about us, I just said, if you're going to do it, take everything. Here's 26 years of journals. Here's every photograph.
Wow.
The nudes, the this, the that.
The nudes. The nudes?
It didn't matter. I just thought,
Love story.
Here, take it all. I don't care what you use, because I don't want a story about us that's a packaged story.
No.
If I'm going to tell a story, then what they end up using is, I trust them. So however it comes out, but I just said, if we're in, we're all in.
And speaking about those who give away and not hoarding, Patagonia and you and Doug set a model that I hope more people can follow, that, billionaires don't need to hoard. The billionaires can actually give back. Not all billionaires are evil. And speaking about giving back, there's this, I'm going to repeat this great stat that we did at the beginning. 14.7 million acres and counting have been conserved, correct?
Well, actually, as of Monday last, I think we're going to go up over 15.
Guys, some good news. 15 million.
We're going to just nudge over 15.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
It's a wonderful model, but this is you can hear the snark, right, from some folks.
Sure.
Why protect Chile and Argentina? Why not America? Why didn't you invest here?
Why don't they invest here?
Who is they, sir?
The nudgers that are pushing back on her. Yeah. We all, four of us, hope that the real outcome of this film are those people that haven't thought through what they're going to do with their own lives in their own time to solve these crises of climate and extinction. As Yvonne and Doug used to say, just remember there's no pocket on your last shirt.
Well, I thought it was he who dies with the most spaceships wins. Wasn't that? Isn't that in the Old Testament?
That's a contemporary version of the Old
Oh,
Testament.
I think it's in the chapter Musk verse 2. Too soon or not soon enough? There's a great quote, Kris. There's many great quotes you have with wisdom. There's one I want to really focus on. You can only protect the things that you love if you identify with them.
That's right.
And with storytelling, so many people feel so removed from Chile, Argentina, the forest, the climate. I'm just trying to live my life, man. I'm trying to survive. Income inequality, rising fascism. Why should I care? And I think this is where stories are so important. Why is it so important for folks to identify with what's happening in Chile and Argentina? Why is this story in particular the story to be told right now, especially as we're trying to survive climate change?
I mean, I think there's a few layers to that. I mean, obviously, what our intention was, among a few other intentions, was that our films we like to think of as like a Trojan horse. And
A good Trojan horse.
yes, that, you know, I mean, it's hard to go out with like a conservation story or an environmental story. People feel like they're
People shut down.
fed medicine. And we felt like exactly what you said, like people have to be connected to the characters in this film and be able to identify with this deep love story and this life of intention and finding meaning, and through that telling of that story understand their connection with the land, with protecting these landscapes. And it comes through in their actions, which are so inspiring that we hope people can kind of are able to digest this idea of conservation and, you know, saving the environment in a different manner than most.
You and Chai have a
stories.
great track record. If it's like the other movies, we're all going to go along for the ride. You're going to get nominated for a bunch of awards. It's going to make money, and hopefully more land will be conserved. But there is something about conservation, right? People forget that we're all connected. And when people say stuff that's snarky pushback, why? Who cares about the rainforest? I think sometimes people forget China and U.S., unfortunately, leaders in global emissions and global warming, and the people who are suffering, Horn of Africa, Pakistan, and the EU, which actually has done its part, right? So we're all connected. We can't escape. And there's another quote, Kris. You're a fountain of wisdom, where you said, right now, on any scorecard, nature is losing. What can each of us do in our own way to do something to protect this planet that we all share?
Oh, I think it's really clear. I think everybody, if you're 7, if you're 97, I really mean this. You have to get up every day out of your bed and do something. And it can be right out your front door. It can be protecting an acre out the back door. There is work for everyone. And I know that sounds trite, but the problem right now is people feel like they have no impact about the final story. And that's exactly why they have to do, change their lives this morning. And it can be very small things. There are people in every village, every town, every city around the world that are doing something to protect right around the edges or on a very big scale. But you have to want to think about your future. You have to want to think that you're part of this great circle of life and not at the center of it, but out on the edges like everybody else is. And it's a decision.
That's right.
You can go, I don't know, especially in Western countries that have the greatest responsibility, well, and do the least in many ways.
The story isn't over?
It is not going to be written by governmental legislation. People have to force those things because, as somebody really wise said, common sense is always trumped by culture, and our culture isn't shifting fast enough to imagine a really healthy life going forward. So people have to insist on those things. Abdication is the last thing people should be doing.
And the story is still being written. The story isn't over
Yes,
yet. The story is
absolutely.
being told by these gifted filmmakers. And I just want to say as we end, thank you for being a good role model, for showing billionaires that there's another way that they can give back and actually help folks. So I really appreciate that. And thank you, Rick, for doing what you've been doing for conservation. That's all the time we have.
Yeah.
You got to see
Thank
the
you.
movie. Wildlife premieres at the Stateside Theater tonight, March 12th at 5:15 p.m. and screens again on March 16th at the Zach Theater at 3:15 p.m. Please stick around because we've got some great interviews coming up today. We've got Chef Jose Andres, author Cheryl Strayed, true crime podcaster Ashley Flowers, and a whole lot more. You can see our complete schedule of our upcoming studio interviews on our website at sxsw.com/studio. I'm your host, Wajat Ali. Thanks for watching.